NXT Takeover Portland is this Sunday, and it's a little different with NXT nowadays. You look at these cards, you think about, okay, who's being called up? With NXT being on USA every week, making it its own brand, it's probably better to have an NXT career than a WWE career, potentially. So people might not like that, but, you know, the only call-up of the past few months literally was Riddick Moss, and he's now the 24/7 champion. So, you know, you're going to see less and less call-ups to the main roster. Maybe you'll see people like NXT, like we did Survivor Series, you know, invading Raw or SmackDown, but we don't really see them being a part of the main roster. And if anything, NXT has proven to technically be the main roster, where now NXT UK could be considered developmental at this point, to where you move up from NXT UK to, you know, regular NXT. That could be a thing that happens from now on. And then eventually the people that have been there for NXT forever, once people from NXT UK go up to NXT, those people that have been in NXT could probably move up to the main roster at that point, because then you have new talent coming into the regular NXT, if that makes sense. But nonetheless, this is a stacked card from top to bottom. First off, for a championship that we didn't know the name of for a couple weeks because of certain things. Originally it was the NXT Women's Championship, and then they wanted to become gender neutral and just call it the NXT title, which people thought, okay, have Adam Cole and Rhea Ripley unify the titles. Why not? Because there's two NXT championships and it's too confusing. And now they go back to being the Women's Championship, so now it will be for the NXT Women's Championship instead of the actual NXT Championship. As Rhea Ripley defends against Bianca Belair, Belair won a Battle Royal to determine the number one contender. And it's interesting to see if Charlotte would go down to the main roster. If she would go down to the from the main roster to NXT to challenge for the title at WrestleMania. We still don't know who Charlotte's going to challenge. She hasn't decided, to the point where Rhea has been goading her for a while. And like I said before, normally when we do these, we'd think of, okay, who gets called to the main roster, who goes to the main roster. But now people are going to stay in NXT for a long time now, and it makes sense that you kind of build off that. But this one's really easy. Rhea wins because Belair, as accomplished and as incredible athletically as she is, has never won the big one. And she might surprise us and actually win the title in Portland, but I don't see it happening. I don't see it because Belair has been going on for months and months saying she's undefeated, then she lost, and she's still somehow undefeated. That's not how it works. But nonetheless, Belair has won these contender matches, but she has never won the big one. She's never won the championship. And I feel like this continues to where Belair, with all of her athletic ability, with all her God-given talent, loses the big one once again. And then goes towards Rhea and Charlotte WrestleMania, possibly. But we'll see on that if it happens. Next up, Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano. These two have had a kind of a back and forth over the past few months. And now they're actually finally going to have a match. I don't really know on this one, because the last Takeover was the first Takeover in forever that Johnny Takeover was not at a Takeover. You know, you don't see that often. However, this could be a rebuilding period for Gargano. Like I said, we never saw him. He's never missed a Takeover until the last one. And at this point, I feel like Gargano needs to win. And I feel like Finn would be it'd be perfect for Finn just to be there to build a new talent. To build, and even though Gargano's been there forever, but I feel like Balor would be there just to build the newer talent. It would just make sense for me personally. Says Gargano wins this one. Next up, the man that fries fish himself, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. This will be there to defend the NXT Tag titles against the Broserweights, the winner of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. Originally, and ironically, his son Cody owns the rights to the Dusty Rhodes name, so he graciously gave NXT and WWE the Dusty Rhodes Classic back, which was a nice touch, and it was great to see that happen for the godfather of NXT in a way, of the late great Dusty Rhodes, to be still included in WWE in some capacity, which was a great moment at that point, and it was just great to see that happen. But nonetheless, the Broserweights, Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne, have been on a rampage ever since being in this tournament, and I really don't know who would win this, but I want Matt Riddle to win just because Matt Riddle's been so entertaining the past few weeks, and it's not like the Undisputed Era has to have the titles. They don't really have to have them. It was great for the evolution-like moment of them holding all the gold, but where do you go from there? Where do you go after winning the titles? You just hold on to them forever, which could happen, theoretically, with our main event. Well, what probably will be the main event. But these matches we're going over is in no particular order at this point. But I feel the Broserweights win it. I feel like, the momentum keeps going. They go all the way, and they hold the titles for a long time. Because Riddle and Dunne are an amazing, entertaining pair, in my opinion, and I feel this needs to continue. This shouldn't just be a one-off thing, but I feel like it could break down eventually, but I don't know. Next up, the NXT Championship. The actual NXT Championship. Adam Cole defends against Tommaso Ciampa. Excuse me, this one's kind of also simple, but kind of complex, because people would say, oh, Ciampa wins the title back. Ciampa wins it. Makes sense, gets Goldie back. Perfect booking there. But I feel like Cole steals this one. I feel like Cole could steal it, and anything could happen. Ciampa, I wouldn't be surprised if Ciampa won the title, but again, I feel like if we were going to call up somebody to the main roster, I would feel Ciampa would be the perfect person to do that with. But, with NXT being an actual brand on a weekly basis on a major television network now, we're not going to see a lot of call-ups, like I said before. But if we were to call somebody up here, I would pick Ciampa. Maybe even Gargano, but I would pick Ciampa for sure. So I would say Cole retains here. In the street fight to end all street fights, the big dog herself, Dakota Kai, faces her longtime friend, now turned rival, Tegan Nox. Nox obviously was injured during the time of War Games. We haven't seen her in a while since. She returned at the Battle Royal. Or I think it was maybe a few weeks before the Battle Royal, but I think she returned somewhere around the Battle Royal. Nonetheless, these two have been going at it for a long time, including Worlds Collide, including the Battle Royal that happened, where Bianca Belair won to get the title shot. And they had a match a couple of weeks ago on NXT, but this should be, if anything, the blow-off of this. But I feel like I really don't know, because Nox already beat Dakota Kai. So it doesn't make sense for her to win again. So I feel like somehow, some way, the big dog will overcome all the odds herself and win this match. I'm going to pick Dakota Kai, the true big dog in WWE. And finally, for the North America Championship, Keith Lee defends against Dominik Dijakovic. And, there could be more matches on this card. We could have Velveteen Dream and Roderick Strong. But, a 6-match card for NXT, that's probably the biggest we've seen. And we could have, pre-show matches. We don't know. But this is a match I'm looking forward to for sure. These two have had amazing matches every time they've locked up. Every time they've been face-to-face with each other. It's just a great match. And I feel like Lee retains, because it makes no sense to have him lose the title this quickly. It just doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't be surprised if Dijakovic won. Dijakovic is a diamond in the rough, a huge talent with a lot of potential. I could see that happening, but I don't know. I really don't know. But nonetheless, I think Lee retains. It just makes no sense for him to lose the title this quickly after winning it maybe a couple weeks ago. It makes no sense there. But this is a great card, like I said before. There could be another match or two. We don't know for sure. But at the end of the day, this is going to be the biggest NXT card in a long time. Potentially with WrestleMania looming and potential WrestleMania matches happening, this could be a great card for sure.